Hello viewers, welcome to the channel, and while you're at it, pay no mind to the resident pilot on duty staring directly at us to our left. We are in the lovely state of Idaho today, flying out of Johnson Creek Airport. It's a DLC marketplace airport, and the identifier for it is 3 Uniform 2. We are heading to another marketplace DLC airport, which was just released within a few days, give or take, of this video's upload. It's Uniform 60 as the identifier, also known as Big Creek Airport. Now, we were already here at 3 Uniform 2 with FS Reborn Sting S4 for a different short hop flight. That video was on the channel, and it was done just a little while ago, so feel free at the end of the video to look on the top right. I'll leave a Microsoft Flight Simulator playlist, so go ahead and browse the content if you want to, feel free. And in the meantime, let's hop on over to our aircraft for today, and I'll show you our payload. We're only flying 15 nautical miles, but it's a very, very heavy set of weight that we have to fly out today to Big Creek Airport. So we're not carrying a lot of fuel, and the weather's also lightly raining with some precipitation and a little bit of clouds. So it should create a pretty unique environment for today's short hop. Let's hop on over there and check it out. Yeah, so I'm sure you've seen the thumbnail for the video already. You know that we're going to be featuring the Pilatus PC-6 Porter by Milviz today because of its extraordinarily high cargo maximum takeoff weight. All those bags and baggages and boxes we have in the back represent 2,750 pounds. We are only flying today with our left and right main fuel tanks, which are about at 15% capacity out of 100. So we've only got a few extra gallons in the tank on each side to spare, but that's okay because we're only flying 15 nautical miles. So we'll add ourselves at 180 pounds and we'll be right at the maximum takeoff weight within literal pounds of max. So let's go ahead, hop on board in the pilot in command position and get this show on the road. Yes, and just like that, we're in the pilot in command position there, and I've already gone ahead and brought up the fuel weight and distribution panel here, so you can see we have just about 13 gallons in our left and right tanks apiece, which does represent the 15% out of 100 for full fuel capacity. We just hopped on board, so we're going to say that we're adding ourselves as weight, correct? And then we do have the 2,750 pounds there as well. So you'll see on the very bottom, total / max takeoff weight, we are at 5998 of 6173. So we are right there. And then when you actually add that for the pilot, it comes out to, like I said, within pounds of maximum takeoff weight. So this is a heavy bird today. We're going to be flying this, of course, pretty much at its limits, full power and all the rest of that. So let's go ahead and get all that set up. We'll get this machine started, warmed up, and we'll get this airborne, and we'll fly the 15 nautical miles and call it a day. So it's the middle of the morning here. I'm going to go ahead and put our little, I don't know what you would call those. They almost look like tiki hut visors, but that'll work for me. So let's go ahead and, as always, turn on the battery. You have to be careful with this aircraft because you can actually do a hot start with it and start a fire in the engine. So I'm going to go ahead and, with that in mind, make sure that our propellers are on full forward there with our lever. Of course, we'll leave the fuel turned off because that is the instigator to the fire if you start it up too early. So let's go ahead and start our nav lights. I'll throw the beacons on just to let anybody know around here that we are about to fire up our turboprop here. Let me turn on the avionics bus 1 and 2. We'll get that going, and then we'll also hit enter. Let the computers align there. Let all the gyroscopes spin up, so on and so forth. While that's happening, we'll check our trim right there in the center screen. This aircraft is not happy if you do not. In fact, you may even hear it beeping after we land at the Big Creek there, because if you're out of trim, it definitely beeps at you and lets you know it's not happy with how you're flying. So that is never ideal. Before I forget, let's go ahead and come down here to the primary display and make sure that we are on altimeter mode so that we do not forget our 1200 squawking transponder in the active position. And even though we're probably not advised, it's not a good idea to run on your batteries too long because of how much these batteries cost in these aircraft. But that being said, I'm going to turn up to Uniform 60 so that we can get that programmed and out of the way. So let's go ahead and dial that right in. 60 Big Creek. There you go. I'm going to try to approach from the left because it's an easier approach. Apparently, I've never been here before, but I have watched some YouTube videos of this taking place in real life. This is a very unique airport, and it inspired me to pick it up here on the sim. So with the prop area clear, our propeller full forward, our fuel cut off, and our throttle at idle, let's go ahead and turn on the engine itself. So to do that, I'm just going to use my custom here for the view. I'll rotate the starter. I'll turn on the ignition and then the auxiliary fuel pump. But before we do that, let's not forget to turn the fuel cutoff valve to the flow position, and then we'll start and we'll monitor engine vitals. So, as always on the channel, we're looking for oil PSI rise, we're looking for temperatures, we're looking for NP rise. Once we're within that zone, it looks clear. We're going to throw on a little bit of fuel here. Start introducing that with the spark, and we should get a light off. Looking for a hot start. I do not suspect with the ITT that we will have one because the temperature is already normalized and spooling down. Also helpful is this propeller. Ideally, one of the reasons why you make sure your propeller lever control is full forward, because that propeller blast from the air is actually going through the motor and helping cool it down, because we're obviously not moving anywhere, so that wind blast helps cool off the engine, so to speak. Okay, now that that's a successful start, I'm going to turn the auxiliary off, the ignition switch, and the starter. We have a good light off, and I'm going to bring this down just a little bit here to low idle while we're on the ground. Clear that caution message, turn on the generator. I already know that our barometric pressure today is going to be 29.70, so let's go ahead and set that while we are at it, excuse me. And then I'm going to go down and set our flaps here for takeoff. Let's make sure that they are functioning. And we do have one notch of flaps, but we'll go ahead and put full flaps just to check full range of motion. And then we'll go to the takeoff position. Let's go ahead, and I'm going to move these control flight surfaces about. Make sure they're free and correct. Alright. Ailerons are functioning well. Let's look down here. Make sure we have rudders working. Left and right, full deflection. Elevator up, elevator down. Okay, looks like everything's free and clear. I'm going to turn off the parking brake here and then grab some foot brake. Both differential left and right. Let's go ahead and talk to ATC here. This is a Unicom, of course, so we're kind of just going to announce it ourselves. 17. Fantastic. We're almost facing 17 now. As you can see, 180 degrees, so we're going to have to back taxi just behind us and to our left. Before we do that, though, what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and rotate this heading knob to 170. That way, if I need to throw on the autopilot in an emergency, we are basically heading in the runway heading direction. With that being said, I do believe we are ready to actually hit the skies. So, engine parameters still look good. Everything's in the green. We still have plenty of fuel. It's only 15 nautical miles. Let's see what the GPS says here. Yep, 15 flat, no big deal. Bearing 014. All right, let's head on out. I'm gonna turn on the position lights for landing lights as well. So let's lower the lights out of the wing, under root side, and then we'll turn them on. Okay, here we go. Now, because we're so heavy, it's probably going to take a little bit of input here, throttle-wise, to get this aircraft rolling. Like I said, we do have between our weight, the fuel weight, and the 2,750 pounds, probably very near 3,000 pounds of added extra weight, minus what the aircraft weighs. Of course, we want to make sure that we don't hit that aircraft. Do not need any insurance claims, and then we'll swing to the right. And it did not look like there was anybody there. from our left and our right. So no aircraft on final. And with all that extra weight and our fuel lever in low idle there, it does take a little bit of power to get this thing moving, but once we're in flight, this thing will have no problems, I suspect, taking off and maintaining plenty of airspeed. You probably noticed that the outside air temperature is 15 degrees Celsius in the bottom left down here. That means we do not have to worry about freezing conditions here in Idaho with this rain. If we did, of course, we would adjust accordingly with our mechanical mechanisms for de-icing. But not a factor today, at least not so far. So, as always, thank you for joining me here on the channel and checking out this Milviz PC-6. I've had this as well on the channel before, along, as I've said earlier, with this airport, and we'll be checking out Big Creek Uniform 60 for the very first time today. I've certainly never flown there in a simulator. As I said, at the time of release, within several days, this had just come out on the July 28th. So this is a first for me as well. Now, since this is a Unicom airport, and we are going to call this a VFR flight today, we do not have anything coming in on final approach, so I'm going to do my checks on my engine right here while we're lined up at the runway threshold of 17. So to do that, I'm just going to go ahead and come to a full stop. I'll throw the parking brake on again, and then I'm going to bring the engine up to flight position here for the fuel control lever. And you can hear the rise in engine power and RPM. It's quite significant. So let's go ahead and check the propeller. We'll cycle that 2 times. Excellent. I'll bring the throttle up just a little bit. It seems as though we have a propeller control lever that works. Let's go ahead and we'll check the reverse pitch on the propeller. All right, fantastic. So that works. We'll clear that warning. We'll make sure once more that our trims are in the flight position, and they are. I'm going to throw a little bit of right rudder because this engine actually produces quite a bit of horsepower and a lot of torque. So let's close this up for the noise abatement here. We'll announce our takeoff. Let me remove the parking brake, and then we'll hit the skies.
Train Uniform 2 traffic Pilatus, November train 15 Foxtrot, taking off runway 17 straight out departure.
And here we go. And I've flown this aircraft quite a bit. I've never flown with 2,750 pounds, but I can tell you, you definitely feel that weight accelerating for sure. And we're not going to pull back too steeply because we do not want to stall out with almost 3,000 pounds of weight on board. You can hear the stall warning letting us know, don't be a fool. And we'll just fly this valley a little bit while the aircraft picks up a little bit of speed. To supplement that stall warning, I'm going to go ahead and pull it down a little extra notch of flaps there to get some more lift. It'll slow our speed down a little bit, but it'll definitely give us some more lift, which is what we need, because you do not have, as evidenced at the front window, too much maneuvering room left or right. So if you get into an engine failure situation here or any mechanical danger, this is definitely not the ideal place to lose an engine. And ideally, should be worth noting that We did not throw the auxiliary fuel pump on for takeoff. That would have been an ideal thing to do too, but we trust our trusty PC-6 here. These aircraft are extremely tried and true. They're actually quite old and they're not being manufactured anymore, but they are used all over the world for many, many important special missions, especially down there in Papua New Guinea with all those airstrips. You may even be familiar with several of them, of course. Bugalaga, that was the landing challenge that people attempted here in the simulator. It's still available. Quite an awesome approach. So that's worth giving a shot. And this is the kind of plane that would get you there. That and even possibly Kodiak 100. Very similar aircraft to its flight regime and the kind of duties that it would do. So you can see we're kind of flying on the very edge of the envelope here. Maintaining 70 knots, 72 knots. And we're only doing about 300 feet a minute, really, 400. So this aircraft can usually climb with a light load and about 50% fuel. I would say anywhere easily above 1,000 feet a minute, 1,200, maybe even 1,500 feet a minute. So that weight back there certainly is changing the dynamics of the flight. I can also feel that it's very tail heavy in terms of what it's normally like without it. Of course, it's making it quite interesting because we're in this valley here flying through thermals. That's not me really manipulating the flight yoke there. You can see I'm not really doing anything down at the center bottom of the screen with the flight yoke other than basically keeping the aircraft under control, so to speak. These are just minor corrections to right the thermals that we're encountering. So although it's only 15 nautical miles, the thing is we have to make sure we can climb over these mountains before we go ahead and turn into the side of them. Not a problem. I'm going to go ahead and attempt to make that left-hand turn. And as I always say, thank you for being here and checking out this content with me. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to making this approach into Big Creek Airport. Should be quite interesting scenery. The real world location looked mighty interesting. You'll see. We'll be flying basically in between. Well, there'll be a big ridge on the right, and then there'll also be a, well, I don't know what we would call it. I guess you would call it a temporary ridge on the left. I don't know. And it kind of goes up and then back down, almost like a ski jump or something. You'll see. And we'll be flying right in between both of those openings, right down the right-hand side. Very neat. Very, very neat. So, what better scenery than cloudy Idaho with the chance of rain? Why not? Why not? Now that we've made that turn, we're clear enough from the mountains and we have enough altitude room here to, well, I wouldn't say make a mistake, but I mean, we've got some room to breathe here in case we have any failures or anything like that. We like to pay for the tip-top maintenance on our Porter here, so we're not going to plan for any of that today, although you always should, of course. With it being like that, I'm going to go ahead and turn the landing lights off, so we'll remove the light and then I'll actually rotate the lights that are on the outer wing. They'll fold back up backwards into the wing, so that'll be a nice little feature. I don't know if they create any parasitic drag in themselves being deployed, but we'll go ahead and pretend that it helps anyway. So because this is, and there's that rain right off the windshield, because this is a short flight, if we were on a longer flight I would pull the propeller RPM back a little bit and put the engine more into a cruise mode, but as it stands right now we're so heavy we could use every ounce of power this aircraft can produce. And with these clouds, quite honestly, I'd rather have more power and as much airspeed allowance as possible. Certainly this synthetic vision is helping us out today with our Garmin NXI G1000. And I'm a steam gauge guy myself, but I also like the glass cockpits. I completely love the H-Jet in this game. I love how when you're flying that, you can literally fly through icing conditions, and just like in the real world, it'll turn on the anti-ice systems for you, so you don't even have to worry about it. Quite an amazing feat, for sure, when you think about how far aviation has come in such a short amount of time, from the Wright brothers down there in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, to what we're flying with today is quite the progress. And I feel like it's been done in quite a short amount of time, especially when you look at technology today with computers and practically everything, right? I mean, it's at a very rapid pace. It's a great time to be experiencing Microsoft Flight Simulator with all the benefits and the photogrammetry and everything. Excellent time to be a gamer, for sure. So you can see it took us a little while to get towards the yellow band there of our speed limit, cautionary. But now that we're cruising, we're kind of just maintaining ourselves. Not even going to throw on the autopilot for this. Might as well just enjoy the flight. Let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit. 13.1 nautical miles and decreasing. So if you look at our magenta line on our primary there, we are a little bit right, and you can see that in that compass rose. But also if you look on the right-hand Garmin screen, you can see, of course, our aircraft and our relative terrain data. Of course, green meaning we're completely safe and totally above it. Yellow meaning be careful. Red meaning that is a definite impact. If you continue at this altitude on this heading, you will definitely impact that terrain. So with the rain and everything else, it makes for quite a informative experience. Not only do we have the scenery with the weather, but it's also being supplemented, I feel, by the Milviz Porter. This aircraft has, I mean, it's very, very unique. The sound package that it comes with and everything, it's fantastic. So there you go. We have warning lights there for the left and the right hand fuel. That's okay. I knew we were going to be super low for today's flight. But people need their cat food, so we have to deliver as requested. And then we'll just go ahead and rotate our rangefinder here and just see how much further we have to go. Although it says 9.7 miles, you can see where that is on the map. It's also depicting the weather radar there. Those big green dark blotches are storm clouds, as we can see out of our window as well. But that works. Helps us, you know, if we want to deviate our flight path, we can change so that we're not specifically flying into inclement weather. Although with our severely limited fuel status, of course, we definitely do not want to be taking any side routes. And now that we're at full cruise speed here, I'm going ahead and pulling back the propeller condition lever a little bit there. Pull back those RPMs just a little bit. And we shall be there in 7.5 nautical miles. Boy, but when you're low on fuel, I tell you, those 7.5 nautical miles kind of feel like a lifetime. This sort of feels already like it's been quite an extreme close call there. Most of that fuel, of course, is being burned with that full power takeoff. But we don't have to go very high, so we're not really trying to stay at high levels of power and torque for a very long time. I also suspect with this weather, you can see these thermals are going to make quite a unique approach, of course. But like I said, when you got 2,700 pounds of cat food and bird feed and everything else in the back, I'm telling you, Big Creek Airport, they need their animal supplies. So we must stand and deliver. Well, technically fly and deliver. 5.5 nautical miles. Gonna go ahead and start pulling the power lever back. We'll fly right over this ridge, and as I've never been here before, I would presume that we will see the airport very shortly. Theoretically, it's just ahead, right through those clouds. And now would be a great time to turn those landing lights back on. We'll give Big Creek a call here, let them know. So we're going to come in on 19. And I'm going to announce a full stop, but first the position. So I believe the airport, if you see our propeller arch there, right in between, well, it was right in between, but basically at about 11:30, you see that ridge there, just beyond the cloud coverage. The airport is to the left of that. So when I had said it almost looks like a ski jump, you can see the big mountain to the left and then the little ridge to the right with the runway in the middle. And my approach is going to be, let's fly the right side of this ridge, right in between the valley. We'll set up in that valley, we'll apply our flaps, we'll get everything ready to go, and then we'll make a hard left turn, we'll announce our final, and then we'll fly straight on in. Now we are using synthetic vision to assist us today, of course, with this landing, and because it's a DLC aircraft, I am not sure if the synthetic vision will pick it up. I'm noticing a very big black spot, obviously in that left-hand corner of the left screen, but you can kind of just see that, I don't know what you call that, maybe a teal roof building there. That's pretty much one of the lodges at the other end of the runway, so we're not landing at that threshold. We'll be landing basically on the other side here. So I'm coming into the white arch here. I'm going to go ahead and put down a notch of flaps and apply a little bit of power and bring that RPM of the propeller back up. And we can just make out the silhouette in front of us and to our right of the mountain range, but this is why the Garmin 1000 NXI helps, because it keeps us in the know and away from the terrain. Let's go ahead and announce that we are on downwind. And it might actually be easier for me to just keep that open, then I can just press the buttons on the keyboard, let them know. And you can see on the left screen of the NXI, it does show the airport there. So we're going to fly right through this valley a little bit and then make a steep left-hand corner. I'll announce on this left that we are turning base. And we'll hit that number 6 key. We'll turn on another level of flaps here. We'll monitor our turn rate, our altitude, our speed, and our flap setting. I'm going to go ahead, turn on full flaps, pull power back, and exploit this propeller's beta range that works with the Porter. And then we'll go ahead and grab a gigantic dive here, because essentially that propeller is working like a gigantic speed brake for us when it runs in beta range. And all that requires is for you to basically be at idle with the engine power. It's almost like a speed brake. So we'll go ahead and trim out. Like I said, if you hear a whole bunch of beeps when we land, definitely don't be surprised, because that is the aircraft telling us that it is not happy with our trim position. So you can feel all of the bumps here with me. Quite hectic. And then there's our runway. So we're just going to come in over that. It's plenty long. Make sure we keep the power up. And then let's go ahead and land with the rain. And want to stay away from trees on the right. And we're down. And that's a lot of weight to bring to a stop. Little squirrely. We'll apply the brakes. Make sure we come in without hitting anybody else's aircraft here. I'm going to go ahead and clean the flaps up, and then let me bring the throttle back to low idle for ground operations here. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn left. Let's just get off of the active runway. I'll turn the auxiliary fuel pump on. We won't blind anybody, so we'll turn the landing lights off. We'll open that window for some fresh air. Now I want to hit that vintage pickup truck. It's probably the thing carrying all of our cat food out of here. Alright, so let's just put on the parking brake and work at turning this aircraft off so that we can unload our cargo here. First thing I'm going to do is let's just turn off the lights here. Alright, we're also going to let the engine run for a little bit so that it can cool itself down with the propeller wash there. I'll turn off my transponder, effectively putting it into standby. As I said, we're already at low idle. We're going to leave the propeller pitch forward. I'll turn off my avionics buses here just in a second, but before I do that, I'm definitely going to just monitor these engine parameters real quick. It's not hot. Everything seems stabilized. Oil temperature there, just on the high end of the green, so we'll let that run, see if it drops a little bit. No big deal. While I'm doing that, I'm going to look down here and lock our steering in the back. That works. And then with that being the way that it is, how's about we go ahead and we'll shut the engine down then. So I'm going to flip this condition lever here for the shut off, and I'm just going to pull this back to cut off. With that running down, I'll turn the avionics bus 2, bus 1 off. We'll pull the propeller level back there. We'll also go to feather. Let's go ahead, turn the generator off and the battery at the same time by just flipping that down there. We'll open up the door, and we are here. So, I hope you like the 2 DLC airports, 3 Uniform 2 and Uniform 60 here at Big Creek Airport. We've got all these packages to unload, and in the meantime, I hope you'll consider subscribing, possibly throwing a like, throw a comment, let me know what you thought. Thanks either way for being here. Appreciate your time. Have yourselves a great day, and until the next video, bye-bye.